The cold hit me first. Not the weather, the look in my son's eyes. I stood on the porch of the 2-story suburban house, gripping my worn handbag. My gray hair was tucked under a cheap knit cap. My coat was thin. My hands shook, not from age, but from the weight of what I was about to do. I rang the bell. The door opened. My son, Jason Miller, 42, stood there in a crisp button-down shirt, the smell of steak and garlic drifting from inside. He blinked. "Mom." I forced a weak smile. "Jason, I need help." He stepped outside, closing the door behind him so his wife wouldn't hear. "What happened?" he asked quickly. I dropped my voice. "I lost everything. The company collapsed. The house is gone. I've been sleeping in my car." His face stiffened, not with worry, with panic. "Mom, this neighborhood, the HOA is strict. If neighbors see." I cut him off. "I'm your mother." He rubbed his forehead. "I can't have you inside right now. My wife's parents are visiting. It would be awkward." Awkward. I swallowed the ache rising in my chest. "So where do I go?" He looked toward the driveway, toward the detached garage. "You can sleep there," he said. "There's an old couch. It's better than nothing." The words landed like a slap. Sleep in the garage. Like a stray dog, like a shameful secret. I nodded slowly. "Thank you," I whispered. He didn't hug me, didn't touch me, just opened the side gate and pointed. I walked past his shiny SUV, past the perfect lawn, past the warm light pouring from windows I once helped pay for. I opened the garage door. The smell of oil and dust wrapped around me. The couch was stained. Springs poked through the fabric. A single bare bulb flickered overhead. I sat down and let out a breath that felt like my soul leaving my body. This was my son, the boy whose scraped knees I kissed, the boy whose college tuition I paid in full, the man who now couldn't spare me a spot on his couch inside his house. Tears finally came, silent, heavy. But beneath the heartbreak, something else stirred. Resolve. Because Jason didn't know the truth. He didn't know I wasn't broke. He didn't know I still owned this house. He didn't know tomorrow morning a lawyer would arrive at this very driveway. And his perfect life was about to crack. My son thought he'd hidden me in the garage, but by sunrise, he'd learned the house wasn't even his. Not because of the temperature, but because of the voices drifting through the thin wall. I lay on the broken couch, my coat pulled over me like a blanket. Sleep wouldn't come, my back ached, my pride hurt worse. Then I heard laughter from inside the house. Jason, his wife Amanda, and her parents. Wine glasses clinked, plates scraped, warmth, comfort, everything I had once built for my son. Then Amanda's voice cut through the noise. "Is your mom really staying out there?" she asked. Jason lowered his voice, but not enough. "Yeah, just for a couple nights. She lost everything." Amanda snorted. "That's not our problem. You know how my parents would feel if they saw her inside. It's embarrassing." Embarrassing. Her mother added, "Some people just can't handle money. It's sad, but you can't let that drag you down." My fingers curled into fists. Jason didn't defend me. He just said, "I know, I'll give her a little cash in the morning. She'll figure something out." A little cash. Like tossing crumbs to a pigeon. Tears burned my eyes again, but this time I didn't let them fall. I stared at the ceiling and felt something inside me shift. Not anger. Clarity. For years, I had convinced myself that providing money, cars, houses, and vacations meant I was a good mother. I thought love and luxury went hand in hand. But tonight proved something brutal. I had raised a son who valued appearances more than compassion. And a daughter-in-law who saw me as a stain on her perfect life. I rolled off the couch and sat upright, pulling my phone from my coat pocket. The screen glowed in the dark. One number sat at the top of my favorites list. Mr. Leonard Graves, a state attorney. I typed a message. "Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., bring the documents." 3 dots appeared. "Understood, Mrs. Miller. Are you safe?" I looked around the garage. The oil stains, the rust, the cold. I typed, but my son won't be. I set the phone down and leaned back. Jason thought this was temporary. Amanda thought I was a problem to hide. They had no idea that the woman freezing in their garage still owned the deed to this house, still owned the company shares, still controlled every trust fund tied to Jason's future. By this time tomorrow, the garage wouldn't be my shame. It would be their regret. They whispered about me like I was worthless, but in a few hours, they'd discover I was the one holding their entire world in my hands. Oar creaked. Light spilled in. And there stood my grandson, Tyler, 10 years old, messy hair, Spider-Man pajamas, holding a blanket. "Grandma," he whispered, "Dad said you're staying in here." I sat up fast. "Tyler, sweetheart, you shouldn't be out here. It's cold." He walked in anyway, closing the door behind him like he was guarding a secret. "I heard you coughing," he said. "I got you this." He handed me the blanket, soft, warm, smelling like clean laundry. My throat tightened. "Thank you, baby." He climbed onto the couch beside me without asking permission, curled up like he used to when he was little. "Why are you sleeping in the garage?" he asked. I brushed his hair back. "Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes." He frowned. "Did my dad make a mistake?" "Smart kid." I chose my words carefully. "Your dad loves you. That's what matters." Tyler was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Mom said you can't come inside because Grandma Linda and Grandpa Ron are here. She said it'd be weird." Weird. That was the word now. I swallowed the sting. "Do you think it's weird?" He shook his head. "No, you're my grandma." Just like that, no judgment, no shame. He yawned and rested his head on my arm. Within minutes, he was asleep. And in that cold, dirty garage, wrapped in a child's blanket, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Pure love. Not bought. Not earned. Just given. When the first light of dawn slipped through the small window, I knew exactly what I had to do. Not just for myself, but for Tyler. Because if I didn't fix this family now, he'd grow up learning the same broken values. A soft knock came at the garage door. Jason's voice. "Mom, you awake?" Tyler stirred but didn't wake. I stepped outside quietly and closed the door behind me. Jason looked uncomfortable, guilt flickering in his eyes. "Here," he said, handing me a $50 bill. "You can get breakfast or something." $50. For a night in a freezing garage. I took the bill, folded it slowly, carefully, and placed it back in his hand. "Keep it," I said. "You'll need it later." He frowned. "What's that supposed to mean?" I smiled, small, calm. "Nothing, son, just a mother's instinct." At that moment, a black sedan turned the corner of the street. My lawyer had arrived. Jason thought he was being generous, but the real generosity was about to be decided in court-level ink. The black sedan rolled into the driveway like it owned the place. Jason's head snapped toward it. "Who's that?" I didn't answer. I just watched as Mr. Leonard Graves stepped out, crisp gray suit, leather briefcase, polished shoes that didn't belong on a driveway with oil stains. He walked straight past Jason and shook my hand. "Mrs. Miller," he said. "Good morning, are you all right?" Jason's eyes widened. "Mom, who is this?" I turned to my son. "This is my estate attorney." The word estate hit him like a brick. Mr. Graves opened his briefcase and pulled out a stack of documents. Mrs. Miller requested an emergency meeting regarding property ownership and beneficiary rights. Jason laughed nervously. "Property ownership? Mom, what's going on?" I looked at him, really looked at him. "Jason," I said quietly, "whose name do you think is on the deed of this house?" He blinked. "Mine, obviously." Mr. Graves slid one document forward. "Actually," the lawyer said, "the deed lists Alina Miller as sole owner. Purchased 15 years ago. No transfer of ownership has ever been filed." Jason grabbed the paper, eyes scanning wildly. That's not possible. I pay the mortgage. There is no mortgage, Mr. Graves replied calmly. The house was paid in full in cash. Jason's knees buckled slightly. Mom, why? Because when your father died, I said, I promised myself my children would never struggle, so I bought you a home. I let you believe it was yours. I never held it over your head. Until now. Amanda burst through the front door, robe wrapped tight around her. Jason, what's happening? Who is that? Mr. Graves nodded politely. Amanda Miller, correct. I'm Leonard Graves, estate attorney for Mrs. Alina Miller. Amanda's eyes narrowed. Estate. Jason's voice shook. Mom, please tell me this is a joke. I stepped closer. Last night, you put your mother in a garage so your in-laws wouldn't be uncomfortable. This morning, you gave me $50 like I was a stray, and you never once asked if I was okay. Amanda crossed her arms. We gave you a place to sleep. Don't act like we threw you on the street. The garage, I said, is for cars, not people. Silence slammed into the driveway. Mr. Graves opened another file. Mrs. Miller has requested an immediate revision of her will and property arrangements. Jason's breathing grew heavy. You're not serious. I met his eyes. I am. In the next 10 minutes, my son would either become a man or lose everything he thought he owned. Jason's hands were shaking as he flipped through the deed papers. His wife hovered beside him, her confidence evaporating with every line he read. This means, Jason stammered. That I own this house, I finished, not you. Amanda's voice rose sharp. So what, you planned this? You came here looking broke just to humiliate us. I stayed calm. No, I came because I wanted to know if my son would choose love over appearances. Jason's face twisted. I didn't know what to do. My in-laws were inside, this neighborhood. Stop, I said. If love requires perfect conditions, it isn't love. A car door slammed behind us. Tyler ran out in sneakers and a backpack. Dad, I'm gonna miss the bus, he yelled. He froze when he saw all of us outside. Grandma, he asked softly. I smiled at him. Go to school, sweetheart. I'll see you later. He looked confused, but nodded and ran off. Jason watched him go, guilt eating at his face. Mr. Graves checked his watch. Mrs. Miller, shall we proceed? Amanda grabbed Jason's arm. Don't let her do this. Talk to her. Jason turned to me, voice cracking. Mom, I'm sorry, okay? I messed up. I was stressed. I didn't think. That's exactly the problem, I replied. You didn't think of me at all. Amanda stepped forward. We can fix this. Come inside, take a shower, have breakfast, we'll make space. I shook my head. Kindness offered only after power is revealed isn't kindness, it's fear. That hit harder than any slap. Jason dropped to his knees, right there on the driveway. Mom, please, he said, tears forming. Don't take our home. Tyler grew up here, please. The sight of my grown son begging shattered something in me, but I held steady. This isn't about punishment, I said. This is about truth. You need to understand what you did. Amanda's voice softened for the first time. If you take the house, where will we go? I looked at her, the same way I asked myself that last night. Silence. Mr. Graves spoke carefully. Mrs. Miller, if you wish, you may reclaim the property today. Eviction notices can be served within 72 hours. Jason gasped. Amanda covered her mouth. I closed my eyes briefly. When I opened them, my voice was calm. I won't evict you. Relief washed over their faces. But, I added, this house will now be under my control. You will pay rent, market rate, on time, every month. Jason whispered, rent to you. Yes, I said, because adults take responsibility, even for their parents. Jason thought the nightmare was over, but he had no idea what condition I would set next. Jason looked like he'd aged 10 years and 10 minutes. Amanda stood stiff beside him, her hands clasped so tight her knuckles turned white. Mr. Graves pulled out one more sheet of paper. Mrs. Miller's rental agreement, he said. Month to month, standard rate for this neighborhood. Jason swallowed. How much? $3,200 a month, Mr. Graves answered. Amanda nearly choked. That's insane. I tilted my head. It's the same rate you charge your tenants for the small condo you rent out. Jason blinked. You knew about that? I know everything about my children's finances, I said quietly. I built this family's foundation. I keep track. Silence again. Mr. Graves continued. Failure to pay rent on time for 3 consecutive months will result in eviction proceedings. Jason signed with trembling hands. Amanda hesitated, then signed too. When the pen left the paper, the power shifted completely. This was no longer Jason's kingdom. It was mine. I turned to leave. Jason reached out. Mom, where will you go? I smiled slightly. Somewhere warm. The truth was, I already had a suite booked at a quiet senior residence downtown. Clean bed, private bathroom, 3 meals a day, no garage, no humiliation. But I didn't tell him that. Let him sit with the image of his mother wandering off alone. Because sometimes guilt is the only teacher that works. As I walked toward the sedan, Tyler's school bus passed by. He pressed his face to the window and waved when he saw me. I waved back. Jason saw it too, and something in his eyes shifted. A crack in the armor. A father realizing what example he had just set for his son. Amanda whispered, Jason, what have we done? He didn't answer. He just stared at the empty driveway where his mother had stood moments before. In the car, Mr. Graves glanced at me. Are you sure about this course, Mrs. Miller? I leaned back in the leather seat. For the first time in years, I said, I'm certain. Because this wasn't about money anymore. It was about breaking a cycle. So Tyler would never learn to hide people he should love. But the biggest surprise wasn't the house. It was the person who would soon knock on my new door. My new place wasn't fancy. But it was warm. A small studio in a quiet senior residence. Clean sheets, hot meals, a chair by the window, peace, dignity, everything I hadn't felt in that garage. I hung my coat, set my handbag down, and let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding for years. Then came a knock at the door. Soft, hesitant. I opened it. Tyler stood there, backpack still on, hair messy from the bus ride. Grandma, he said, slightly out of breath. Dad told me where you moved. Behind him stood Jason. And Amanda. Jason looked nervous. Amanda looked different. No designer bag, no perfect makeup, just a woman who had realized she'd gone too far. Tyler walked in without waiting for permission and hugged me tight. I don't like that you live alone, he said into my shoulder. My heart cracked open again. Jason cleared his throat. Mom, can we come in? I stepped aside. They sat on the small couch. Tyler immediately climbed onto my lap like he used to when he was little. Safe, warm, loved. Jason spoke first. I paid the first month's rent, he said, and the deposit. I nodded. Good. Amanda swallowed. We talked, she said quietly, about last night, about what we did. Jason looked at his son. Tyler asked me if he should put you in the garage when you're old. That's when I realized how wrong I was. I didn't say anything. I let the words sink in. Amanda's eyes watered. I grew up poor. I promised myself I'd never be embarrassed by my life again. I thought protecting our image was protecting our family. I was wrong. For the first time, her apology didn't sound rehearsed. It sounded real. Jason leaned forward. Mom, tell us what to do. We'll fix this. No excuses. I looked at Tyler, then at my son, then at the woman who had once seen me as a problem to hide. And I said the only thing that mattered. Love me out loud, I said. Not behind closed doors, not only when it's convenient, out loud, in front of your child, in front of the world. Jason nodded slowly. We can do that. Amanda whispered, we will. Tyler smiled. Good, because I want my friends to know my grandma is awesome. I laughed, a real laugh. And for the first time, Hope sat in the room with us. But hope doesn't erase consequences. There was still one last truth they didn't know. One final decision, already set in motion. They thought the worst was behind them, but the final chapter was already written. Jason and Amanda started showing up every day after that. Not because I asked, because Tyler insisted. They'd bring dinner, sit in my tiny living room, talk, laugh awkwardly, try too hard, but effort, even clumsy effort, was still effort. And slowly, the bitterness in the air began to thin. One evening, while Tyler was doing homework at the table, Jason stood by the window staring at the parking lot. "Mom," he said quietly, "do you ever think Dad would be disappointed in me?" The question caught me off guard. I folded my hands. Your father believed kindness was the real wealth. He'd be disappointed, but he'd also believe you could grow. Jason nodded, eyes wet. I want Tyler to be better than me. I smiled softly, then show him. That night, after they left, I walked to the small wooden desk by my bed. I opened the drawer and pulled out a sealed envelope. My handwriting on the front. To be OP&ED after my death. Inside was my final will, updated, signed, witnessed. Not just about the house. Not just about money. But about legacy. I touched the envelope lightly. Everything was already decided. Then came another knock at the door. I opened it expecting the nurse. Instead, it was Amanda. Alone. She stepped in, nervous. I forgot Tyler's lunchbox. I nodded toward the kitchen, counter. As she grabbed it, her eyes landed on the envelope on the desk. She didn't mean to look. But she did. And she froze. "Mom," she whispered. I knew instantly what she'd seen. Not the contents. Just the label. After my death. Amanda turned to me, fear replacing guilt. "Are you sick?" she asked. I sat on the bed, calm, honest. "I'm 71, Amanda. I've lived a full life, and I'm preparing for when I'm not here." Her voice shook. "Jason doesn't know." "Not yet," I said, because I needed to know who he would be first. Amanda's eyes filled. She walked over and hugged me. Not for show. Not for strategy. For real. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "For the garage, for all of it." I closed my eyes, letting myself accept the hug. Outside, a car door closed. Jason honked lightly for her to hurry. She pulled back. "I won't tell him about the envelope," she said, "but I'll make sure he earns whatever's inside." I nodded. That's all I ever wanted. She left. The room was quiet again. But the clock was ticking. Because some lessons are taught in life, and some are delivered after you're gone. A week later, Jason showed up alone. No Tyler, no Amanda, just him. He sat across from me, hands clasped so tight his fingers turned white. "I've been thinking," he said, "about everything, the garage, the rent, the way I treated you." He swallowed hard. "I don't sleep at night, Mom. Every time I close my eyes, I see you sitting on that broken couch." His voice cracked. "And the worst part, Tyler asked me if he could sleep in the garage to keep Grandma company next time you're cold." That did it. His composure shattered. He covered his face and cried like he did when he was 5 and scraped his knee. I moved beside him and held his shoulders. "I failed you," he whispered. "I taught my son the wrong lesson. I chose pride over you." I spoke softly. "You failed in a moment, not in your whole life. What matters is what you do next." He wiped his eyes. "I quit my second job." I blinked. "What?" "I was chasing money so hard I forgot my family. We'll live simpler, less fancy vacations, less impressing people, more time with Tyler, with you." For the first time, his words weren't desperation. They were conviction. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small key. "The garage," he said. "I cleared it out, painted it, put in insulation, a heater, a bed, not for you, for Tyler, so he never sees it as a place to hide someone, just a place to play and create. Tears welled in my eyes. Not because of the garage. Because he finally understood. Jason stood. "Mom, I don't care about the house anymore. If you want to take it, take it. If you want us to rent forever, we will. I just want you in my life." I looked at my son. Not the man who shut me out, but the boy who once held my hand, crossing busy streets. And I knew. The lesson had landed. He hugged me tight before leaving. A real hug. The kind that says everything words can't. That night, I sat by the window, watching the city lights. The will in my drawer. The rent contract in my purse. The family slowly rebuilding. And I smiled. Because tomorrow, the final piece would fall into place. Jason thought the story was over, but the real ending was about to be read out loud. 3 months later, we sat in Mr. Graves' office. Jason, Amanda, Tyler swinging his legs on a leather chair, and me very much alive sipping tea. Jason looked nervous. "Mom, why are we here? You're fine." I set my cup down gently. Because I don't believe in waiting for funerals to tell the truth. Mr. Graves opened the sealed envelope, the same one Amanda had seen weeks ago. Jason's breath hitched. Tyler whispered, "Is this a treasure map?" I smiled. "In a way, sweetheart, yes." Mr. Graves began to read. "To my family, I created this will not because I plan to leave soon, but because life is unpredictable, and love should never be left unspoken." Jason stared at me. Amanda held his hand. The lawyer continued. "Jason, I forgive you, not because you begged, but because you changed. You learned that dignity is worth more than pride. That lesson is your real inheritance." Jason's eyes filled. Tyler leaned against his father. "To Amanda, you once saw me as an embarrassment, but you chose to grow instead of defend your mistake. That courage earns my respect." Amanda covered her mouth, tears spilling. To Tyler, never hide someone you love, never trade kindness for comfort. If you remember only that, you'll be richer than any millionaire. Tyler nodded solemnly. Mr. Graves turned the page. "The house on Willow Drive remains in my name. Jason and Amanda may live there rent-free as long as they honor the values this family rebuilt: compassion, humility, and respect. If those values are broken, the lease returns." Jason exhaled in disbelief. "Mom." I raised a hand. The house was never the point, the heart was. The lawyer closed the folder. Jason stood and hugged me carefully, like he was afraid I'd disappear. "I love you, Mom," he said, out loud always. Amanda joined the hug. Tyler wrapped his arms around all of us. And in that moment, the garage, the shame, the anger, all of it finally dissolved. We walked outside together, into the afternoon sun. No secrets, no tests, no hidden pain. Just family. Rebuilt. Sometimes the hardest tests bring the strongest love, and sometimes the garage is where the heart learns to open.